It's a quiet intersection today, much as it was one hot day in July 1967 when cab driver John Smith was pulled over here for a minor traffic violation. Words were exchanged, an arrest was made, and soon Smith was on his way to the Newark, New Jersey Police Department's 4th Precinct. Though the trip was less than a mile, witnesses say by the time he arrived, he had been badly beaten. Opinions differ on what happened during that short trip, but whatever it was, it led to a series of events so cataclysmic they would forever change the world for everyone who lived there. More than 50 years after the Newark riots, when protests against law enforcement are boiling over in cities across the U.S., there appears to be no better time to take a hard look at how one of these conflicts begins, how it unfolds, and how it can impact a city for decades afterwards. Following John Smith's arrest, 5 days of gunfire, looting, and fires rocked New Jersey's largest city, just 12 miles from New York. It was the worst violence to hit the state since the Revolutionary War. The toll of death and destruction was nearly unthinkable. More than a half-century later, questions remain. Most of those directly involved are gone now, but a few survivors can offer what they remember of those days and the years before and after.
I was born in Newark. I lived there for over 50 years. I had no perception of difficulty between the races all my growing up years until I became a fireman, and even not at the beginning of that career.
Everybody got along fine. It was a mixed racially, as I recall, but I never paid much attention to race for my whole life.
Max Herman is a sociologist and college professor who spent 15 years interviewing people connected to the events of 1967.
Whereas white people may have felt, well, everything was fine, by me, everything was okay. The pressure was building within a black community that felt disenfranchised, and they wanted things to change.
I remember one time we went downtown when I was very young, and there was a restaurant there. And I said, oh, I want to go in here. And my mom said, no, we're not going in there, baby. We're going over here. She didn't bother to explain to me why. She said, no, you don't want to even go in that restaurant anyway. It was that type of thing. It's like we do now. We protect our children. You don't want your child to realize at 5 years old that there are people out there that just hate you because of your color.
When we were playing like football, basketball, we would travel to the North Ward. Some of the parents would stone the bus, want to run us out of the North Ward. You don't belong over here.
I was absolutely a racist, and had grown up that way. But again, fear was the reason. It was all about fear.
There was so much hatred going on, it was unbelievable. Just growing up there, all you had to do was a white person, black person look at each other, and next thing you know, you're fighting.
I remember Halloween. The rules were you could not go west of Broadway. We absolutely could not go there.
I think blacks were just tired. We were tired, man. We were tired. We knew something was wrong. We're tired of being poor. I was tired of being poor. I knew I was in poverty.
For years we talk about the civil rights movement and what happened, down south, but Newark was very much a segregated city. Up until the 1960s, there was segregated seating in movie theaters in Newark.
Segregation in Newark was not just racial, but ethnic as well. Throughout the 20th century, the city had numerous ethnic neighborhoods, each known for being home to a certain group. The North Ward was primarily Italian, much of the West Ward was Irish, and the Weequahic area was predominantly Jewish, while German, Polish, and later on Portuguese families made up much of the eastern part of the city, known as the Ironbound section, or Down Neck. As the last immigrants to arrive, African Americans were relegated mostly to the poorest and oldest part of the city, the Central Ward.
That ethnic balkanization was very obvious, and then it took on a racial characteristic As the Italians and the Jews and the Irish and the Poles and the Greeks stopped coming into Newark, the fastest growing ethnic population would be blacks coming up from the American South, obviously, coming into Newark roughly between 1915 and 1965. Their numbers become so great that Newark becomes, by 1965, probably a predominantly black city with these constellations of white ethnic communities. So it was a balkanized city that had a deepening racial problem.